Happy football season, everybody. Simone Eli joining you for another season of Head-to-Head, talking the Auburn Tigers. Excited to be chatting with one of our beat reporters, Peter Rauterkus, as we are gearing up for another season on the Plains. Of course, this is year 3 for Auburn head coach Hugh Freeze. A lot of excitement, but a lot of expectations, Peter, as we enter a third year under the Freeze regime. What are your thoughts going into this week 1 game as Auburn prepares to start the season?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of excitement, but the big question is, can they finally live up to, I think, the expectations that Auburn fans have, but what haven't really been the expectations the last few years. I mean, Auburn hasn't won more than 6 games in a season since 2019. So, I think going into this game, especially when you've got a marquee opponent, Auburn hasn't faced a marquee opponent in week 1 in a long time. They want to see those results starting. And I think this is a great opportunity for Hugh Freeze and this team to get a signature win, or at least a big win, going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, no question. Opportunity, definitely the word as Auburn gears up for this game. A Friday night, a late kickoff. Also the first week of the high school football season in Texas. Of course, for Alabama, it's week 2 of the high school football season. So there's going to be a lot going on there in Texas, no question. But it's going to be in Waco. Auburn actually a 2.5-point favorite going into this game on the road to play the Baylor Bears. I was a little bit surprised by that line, but sometimes, Vegas, they kind of try their hand at something early on in the season, and we don't really know what we're going to get. And I think that's kind of what the story is right now with this Auburn team, is what are we going to get under Coach Freeze? What are we going to get with Jackson Arnold transferring in, learning this system, and trying to get the kind of went over the locker room in an early way? Peter, we've seen a lot of reports this offseason of things going well and things kind of not going well. Who's calling the offense? What's going on? And there's a lot of we're going to find out. What are your thoughts on what this Hugh Freeze offense is going to look like under Jackson Arnold as we enter this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think like any camp, there's been some up and down, throughout the preseason leading up to this week. In terms of what to expect, I don't think the offense is going to look too different from, Hugh Freeze offenses we've seen in the past, especially at Auburn. I think what they like about Jackson Arnold that maybe they didn't get as much as they wanted last year was his ability to use his legs. I think that's a very underrated skill that Jackson Arnold has. And, Hugh Freeze was talking about it last week and, throughout camp, that it's harder for them to really see how good he is at extending plays when, you're maybe in a scrimmage or a practice in camp where, you're blowing the whistle as soon as somebody gets close to him. But they really do think that he can open up the offense with his legs. And obviously, I mean, he's going to have no shortage of talented receivers to throw to with guys like Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, Harry Thompson coming back, Eric Singleton Jr., transfer from Georgia Tech, Horatio Field. So, I mean, I think there's reason to be optimistic about the offense, but like you said, it's going to come down to Jackson Arnold, how he's able to gel with the guys right away. I mean, it's worth mentioning. I mean, this is a week 1 game. This will be his first time in a live game situation with these players and in this offense. So it's reasonable to expect, maybe some hiccups, some mistakes early on. But the key is going to be trying to minimize that as much as they can.
What do you think the possibility is going to be that we see more than one quarterback for the Tigers on Friday?
I don't think it's something that they really want to do. Hugh Freeze, I think when Hugh Freeze made that comment a week or 2 ago, he was more so saying it as a way to, we're confident in the other guys we have. Now, sure. I do think there could be scenarios where, look at a guy like Ashton Daniels, or maybe they really want to run a quarterback run or some specific, maybe even like wildcat type of set. I could see him coming in. But in terms of like a rotation or, this guy gets this drive, this guy gets another drive, rotating 3 guys, I think that's something that they, no, I don't think anybody wants that.
Yeah, no. If I don't think that would not be a positive sign for things on the Plains going into 2025. Peter, so some question marks as we kind of gear up for this season in terms of Auburn offensively. I think that's everyone really doesn't know what things are going to look like unless, of course, you have a returning quarterback. If you have guys up front that you feel confident about, and if you have a bunch of people that you're rolling out there for the first time together, well, of course, you're naturally going to have a little bit of a reservation, a little bit of concern as to what that's going to look like in live game action. But we will find out on Friday in Waco as the Auburn Tigers travel to kick off the season to play Baylor. On the defensive side, I think that there's maybe a little bit more I'm going to say foundation, rock solid, just feeling – hey, okay, we have some consistency coming back. Our coaching staff has mostly remained the same going into this season, which is a big win. What do you think about the Tigers defensively?
I mean, I think there's a lot of confidence in the defense. I mean, you mentioned it. You look at how many young guys, how many freshmen played on that defense last year and had good seasons. You got all those guys coming back, add a full off season next year in the system. You added some transfers. You added another, top 10 recruiting class. So they've got more freshmen they expect to play.
Yep.
I think the defense, there's a lot more confidence. That's not necessarily a shot against the offense, but just
Sure.
what you're getting out of the defense more than what you're getting out of the offense. I think
Yeah.
especially up front, I would say, the defensive line and then that cornerback are the two positions where they're most confident. I mean, we talked a little bit ago about how good Auburn's receivers are, but these cornerbacks were really, really good against them in camp. I mean, you saw guys like Jay Crawford and K.M. Lee specifically who were, really turned into lockdown corners throughout camp that's going against guys like Cam Coleman, like Horatio
Yeah.
Fields. So, and they're going to need to be. I mean, this is the Baylor offense that's returning its starting quarterback, returning its top two receivers, returning its top rusher, returning 4 without starter on the offensive line. I mean, this group's going to have to be really good. But I think there's a lot more confidence and there's a lot less worry there than there is on offense.
Looking at the first month of the season, of course, like I mentioned, Auburn's going to begin the season against Baylor out of conference. They're going to come home, Jordan-Hare Stadium, for a couple of weeks to play Ball State, South Alabama, before going back on the road and back west to start the SEC schedule against a current top 20 preseason ranked Oklahoma team, where I think that they don't really know what that's going to look like either. In fact, I don't even think I realized that Oklahoma was ranked in the top 20 in the preseason. I'm a little bit surprised by that. But before we start even talking about the Sooners at any point, how much can this game, not only because it's an opportunity to go win a ball game, but also really set the tone for the outlook of the year? You never want to put too much on a non-conference game to start the season, but given the fact that we're talking about two well-known P4 programs, doesn't mean that they've had necessarily recent success, but these are teams that we're not talking about. I'm not going to name any names, so we don't have to, make any fan bases upset in the Big Ten or wherever in the ACC. But we're talking about Auburn and Baylor. It's two notable P4 programs. How much can this game just really propel this program going into a week 2 game to open their home slate against Ball State?
It's huge. I mean, you just mentioned it. Look at the first 5 games, right? Obviously, you've got those 2 games against Ball State and South Alabama. But the other 3 is 3 road games, and it's Baylor, at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M. I mean, those are all games. Those are 3 games you easily could lose. I mean, you could be 2-3 coming out of that stretch, but still not have been playing bad.
Well, they were last year in 5 home games.
Exactly. So, that's a very real possibility. But think about it. You beat Baylor, and then you expect to take care of business at home against those 2 teams. Now you go into Oklahoma 3-0. And let's say you win that one, and now you've got 2 big road wins. I mean, you're feeling really good about yourself. I think Auburn obviously can win those games at Oklahoma and Texas A&M, but those games, those feel a lot more. I mean, a coach will tell you every game is a must-win game, but those games feel a lot more critical if you drop a game week 1. Maybe not even for your chances as a contender, because I don't even who knows how realistic that is for Auburn this season to be a college football playoff contender, but. You just talk about the pressure and the outside noise. You can, prevent that from building, the way it can if you take care of business week 1.
Yeah, as the season goes, winning solves a lot of problems, and so it's just the truth of the matter. It's how it is in this business right now. Peter, I know that we're talking about this coming season. We're talking about 2025, but it seems like there is some positive behind the scenes momentum. I know that Auburn recently picked up a commitment, and that hey, okay, is the tide turning, so to speak, a little bit in terms of momentum, although we never really know in this day and age with the ever-changing just landscape of college athletics, especially college football. Do you think that there's just a positive momentum and trajectory right now, or do you think that there's reason for Auburn fans to genuinely feel concerned about if the program is going in the opposite direction?
I mean, I think the best measuring stick for that is, are they going to win games this season? I think if, because you can say they have the talent now. I mean, I think this roster, it may not be at the level of like a Texas or Georgia at the top of the SEC, but this is a roster that's better than 5-7, 6-6. I think, you've got 2 back-to-back top 10 recruiting classes. You've added a whole bunch of transfers. You've got, and projected NFL draft picks on this roster. I mean, this is a team that should be improving. So I think if you see improvement this season, then there is reason to, to still be hopeful, still be optimistic. But if you see more stagnation, if you see a regression, or if you see the same, then I can understand why someone might think, okay, what's happening? In terms of the recruiting stuff, I think, I think the recruiting is still going fine. I think that, obviously the summer wasn't great. You had all the decommitments, you had all the kind of bad PR moments. But I think
Let my guy
this
play
class is
golf.
going to
Y'all
be
need to chill out. Everyone chill out. Hey, listen,
right.
this guy playing golf ain't hurt nobody. I mean, they said, listen, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Right. But, and the ranking is still not what it was the last couple of years, and it may not end up in the top 10 class. But I think what's important to consider is this class is not going to be a class of 2025 players just because of what the current roster is. I mean, Hugh Freeze and John
Sure.
Cohen have talked about, they're prioritizing especially with the rev share money, they're prioritizing the current roster over prospective players. So I think all this stuff on that front is fine. I think what's in terms of hope for the future, I think it's going to come down to, can they actually start winning games?
Yeah, you're right. Peter, good stuff. Going to kick off the season. It's crazy that it's here, man. The offseason flies by, and we'll be back on the plains before we know it. Also seeing the Auburn Tigers there open their home set against Ball State in week 1. But all eyes will be on Auburn at Baylor, a Friday night game. Going to get a little bit of an early treat for the official week 1 of the college football season as the Tigers take the big stage against the Bears on Friday. Peter, good stuff. We appreciate it. Looking forward to a season of head-to-head with you as we talk with the Auburn Tigers.
Yep, thank you.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.